So remind you of the other big story that's broken today. Big statement and an apparent warning to Pakistan. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh courted controversy when he indicated that India's no first use nuclear policy may be altered in the future. Rajnath Singh was speaking in Pokhran and said that the use of nuclear weapons may change depending upon the circumstances. The statement from the Defense Minister coming at a time when Pakistan has resorted to warmongering after India scrapped Article 370, giving special status to Jammu and Kashmir. Listen in to what Rajnath Singh had to say.
ये बात सच है कि जहाँ तक हमारी न्यूक्लियर पॉलिसी का सवाल है उसमें नो फर्स्ट यूज कि आज तक हमारी पॉलिसी यही है। अब भविष्य में क्या होगा ये सब परिस्थितियों पर निर्भर करता है।
Honorable Defence Minister either intends to keep us guessing or seeks to announce a change in policy, then the country would be happy to know what the new policy is, not in ambiguous half phrases, but in a full one paragraph declared policy. And I can assure you that whatever is the policy, we will welcome it and stand behind it. But at least do not do wordplay on something as vital and important as nuclear policy.
Let's raise the big questions then. We've seen the developments at the United Nations Security Council in Kashmir and with the Defense Minister. Should India be reviewing India's no first use nuclear policy? Is India threatening to reverse their nuclear policy against Pakistan? Is Rajnath Singh raising the pitch against Pakistan? Is the Kashmir issue getting internationalized? Will China back off from the Kashmir issue or not? Just some of the questions I want to raise, and we are truly international today. Joining me in the studio is G. Parthasarathi, former envoy to Pakistan. N.R. Tangan, economic affairs expert, is joining me from Beijing. Sultan Hali is a Pakistani defense expert. Happy Moon Jacob is an associate professor at JNU. And Irfan Nuruddin is director South Asia Center at Georgetown University. Appreciate all of you joining us here on the news today. Thanks very much for joining me. I want to come to you there first, Mr. Tanen, because it's China. We just saw a short while ago raising the pitch saying the situation in Kashmir is dangerous and India is violating certain border pacts with China. How do you reflect this? Is China simply now trying to line up with Pakistan? What is the Chinese game here? Isn't Kashmir to be seen as bilateral or internal? Why should China be upping the ante in the Security Council like this?
Yeah, it is an issue for China. They were quite surprised that this was the first big move by the Modi government. They're expecting more of an economic package, not something like this, and they're concerned about the military stability of the area. Security is a chief concern. There's also, from China's perspective, this about the line of control and whether or not that is going to be called into question. Issue is internal to China, to India. Because this is areas that...
So we are having a bit of a problem with your phone line. We'll try and restore that to Beijing in a moment. But G. Parthasarathi, your first comments to what you've just heard. First from Rajnath Singh, effectively suggesting India could review its nuclear first use policy. How do you respond to that no first use policy?
Well, the no first use policy, the architect was the father of the present External Affairs Minister, Mr. K. Subramaniam.
Mm-hmm.
He was really the India's nuclear doctrine king, more or less, for years. It has served us well. Now, I think there are certain aspects
Whenever you say China, say
I think certain aspects we need to be borne in mind, Rajdeep. There is no such thing as a Pakistani nuclear weapons program. There is a Chinese nuclear weapons program in Pakistan. The weapons are of Chinese design. The missiles are supplied by China. Now they have moved to tactical nuclear weapons on plutonium warheads, again with plutonium facilities supplied by China. What the impact of this has been in the case of Pakistan acquiring tactical nuclear weapons has to be carefully looked into, because this is new. The plutonium plant.
Do you think our comments were irresponsible? Should Rajnath Singh at a sensitive time like this not join Pakistan in warmongering? It's one thing for Imran Khan to engage in a desperate warmongering. Why should India join the game? The Prime Minister stayed away from even mentioning Pakistan in his Independence Day address.
I am aware of things as they stood some years ago.
Yes.
When we did not face this prospect of Chinese supplied technologies and missiles for tactical nuclear weapons with us. And that becomes a complex affair. So really, whether it should have been said at this point in time, yes, that can be argued about.
Are you calling for a review of India's no first use policy?
No, I am saying that there is nothing in the sand about the policy. It has to be reviewed, but the government owes it to the people of India and the world to know why that review is coming.
Okay, Happy Moon Jacob, do you agree with that the time has come to relook at India's non-first use policy?
I don't have a problem with the argument that there is a need to review India's nuclear doctrine from time to time, but I do not think it is necessary to give up on India's nuclear first use policy. Remember, nuclear weapons are supposed to provide you with existential guarantees for a state and not for nuclear war fighting. Only a weak conventional power will use nuclear threats against a superior conventional power, in this case Pakistan using that against India. And I can't foresee any circumstances, any conditions under which India would need to use nuclear weapons as a first weapon of choice. It is not useful and it is also not practical in the South Asian context. Should India go down that line, you are looking at a nuclear arms race in the region. India would need more than 110, 130 nuclear warheads that it has. India would certainly need a lot more accuracy. India would need more accurate missiles, and this will of course prompt China and Pakistan to increase their arsenal. I do not think it is useful and necessary to go down that line at all.
But it's coming at a time when over the last few days Pakistan has raised the pitch. Just look at the kind of statement Sultan Hali that your Prime Minister is making from time to time, virtually suggesting that Pakistan is ready to face war in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. You get a sense from Imran Khan's statement that either he's cornered or desperate. Which one of the two is it? Is your Prime Minister cornered and desperate and therefore upping the ante on Kashmir? Is this the kind of language to be used by a responsible leader?
Rajdeep, it's a very serious situation, and I would not say that our Prime Minister is either cornered or he's desperate, but he is trying to raise his concern. He's extremely concerned, and nowhere, please, nowhere, if you can show his quotations, I'll be obliged. Otherwise, take my word for it. He has ever threatened India with any nuclear attack or any such thing. He has only said that if we are attacked, we are ready to defend ourselves to the best of our capabilities. You cannot call it warmongering, please. He is definitely concerned about the unilateral action which your government has taken, and I think he has a right to do that. But so far, he has only taken diplomatic actions, and all his speeches, they do not talk of warmongering. Yes, they talk about Pakistan being prepared to meet any eventuality.
You want to respond?
No, I think let us be very, very clear. Pakistan has repeatedly changed the status of Gilgit-Baltistan. They have poured in outsiders and changed the demographic composition. They are doing the same thing in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They have handed over a part of Gilgit-Baltistan, the Shaksgam Valley, to China. Therefore, I look at it as a joint Chinese-Pakistani coordinated threat. You don't hand over territory like the Shaksgam Valley. We have as much of a claim to the Shaksgam Valley as Pakistan has. And it was handed over on a platter to China by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. And then come to on Aksai Chin, what we said, yes, it was then and remains a disputed territory, but we have also agreed with the Chinese to resolve this peacefully.
But the question is, have we willy-nilly, and that's what happened today at the United Nations Security Council, Irfan Nuruddin at the Atlantic Council, that somewhere down the line, this has got internationalized, that China is determined, it appears, to up the ante in the Security Council. They haven't got support from the Russians. We don't know what stand the Americans will take. But what is your sense? Do you believe that the Pakistan-Chinese joint effort to internationalize Kashmir at the UN can actually work?
I don't. There is no prospect, as your correspondent in New York said, that the UN Security Council will move this forward. An informal consultation at the request of one of the P5 members is a matter of courtesy. I think China is allowing Pakistan to save some face. I mean, Pakistan will triumph this as a big victory of their diplomats, but the fact of the matter is that nothing will come of it. And China also puts a signal to India that if India expects China to watch India make unilateral decisions on the border without response, that China is not willing to do that. So I think diplomacy prevails, everyone talks, and hopefully no one does anything silly.
So Sultan Ali, in a way, should one get the sense that the Pakistanis are looking for a face saver? I repeat my point that you've got a leadership that has been cornered. I know you disagree with that, but you are now looking desperately at the Chinese for a face saver on Kashmir.
No, I'm sorry, we are not looking for a face saver. We were very serious when we took this matter to the United Nations Security Council. Okay, fine, it was discussed behind closed doors. And if it doesn't go any further from here, for the time being, we have other options, and all diplomatic ones, by the way. We are not threatening war, which we will adopt as the time comes. But you see, the very fact that the matter has been internationalized, you keep saying that China is only our only supporter, but you see, even Russia saying that this is a bilateral matter actually endorses our point of view, because we are saying that you have taken a unilateral decision. And what the Ambassador Parthasarathi just said, allow me, sir, to complete, these are events like Aksai Chin, like Gilgit-Baltistan, they took place decades earlier. I do not say on record you're having taken it to either to the United Nations or even taking it up bilaterally with us.
Let's be very clear. The population of Gilgit-Baltistan is being made from a Shia majority province into a Sunni majority province. Let's not kid ourselves. Their guys are still flowing in from Punjab. They're still flowing in from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Don't try and kid us. We know what is happening.
Okay.
Second point is that in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, it's the same thing has happened. The number of Punjabis who have gone in is not funny. So whom are they kidding?
Let me therefore bring in Einar Tangen once again from Beijing, because, you know, the sense one gets is that the Chinese are simply trying to use this as a face saver for Pakistan.
That's true.
Do you concede that or not, Einar, that at the end of the day, the Chinese also would rather stay away from getting tangled in this issue?
The Chinese are particularly concerned that this does not become a regional flashpoint. Already, I've heard a lot of talk about use of nuclear weapons, threats. This is exactly what China would like to avoid. China is concerned about peace in the region, about promoting trade, not conflict. And there's concern about the line of control. There's concern about whether or not this will spread. You have, in essence, a majority Muslim area, which is being taken over by a majority Hindu party. It is within the constitutional rights, subject to the courts. This is an internal matter, but it involves very sensitive issues involving religion and beliefs, and is bound to cause a lot of consternation. It's just not clear why this was the first priority of the Modi government as opposed to economic concerns, unemployment, infrastructure, growing the economy. And I think this has taken not only China, but much of the world by surprise.
Has it taken the world by surprise, Irfan Nuruddin? Have the events of the last 10 days really taken the world by as much surprise as Einar Tangen is telling me at the moment?
I believe it has, Rajdeep. I mean, look, the notion that Article 370's abrogation was a major policy plank of the BJP for many, many years, and even of other parties, is not a surprise to those of us who pay attention. But the way in which this has happened, you know, the house arrest of 3 former chief ministers, of mass arrests and detentions of legitimate mainstream politicians, the incredible clampdown on media communications among the population, I think that has surprised people. And I think that in many ways, we haven't talked about it this evening, but in many ways, that has been a bit of an own goal of the government. I think if they had managed somehow to pull off the abrogation of 370 and 35A without having to make some of those more authoritarian, draconian measures, this would have been a major diplomatic victory for India. But as it is, 2 weeks in, the narrative in Washington and other places has been far more focused on the process, on the unfortunate optics of clamping down a state that you claim to be part of your country, that you claim to be wanting to help. And I think the Modi government and its diplomats have to find a way to change that narrative.
Yes.
I think he has a legitimate point in saying how people who are far away and not fully aware of the ground situation would react. So that's the reaction I can understand. But the fact of the matter is this, that we are clamping down in a place which is flowing with arms supplied from across the border. We would first have to stabilize it.
It's also the most heavily militarized zone in the world.
Yes, but then even if it is, believe me, Rajdeep, I have been in the army. You know, 3 gorillas sitting in vantage points can play hell with a civilian population. So we have to, I agree, it would have created misgivings abroad, but over a period of time, I think within the next 3 to 6 weeks, this will taper off.
You believe it will taper off already? Happy Moon Jacob, we've got announcements today to suggest schools and colleges will start in Kashmir on Monday. Landlines will be restored by tomorrow morning. Do you believe that with time, the so-called authoritarian tendencies that have been witnessed in the way political leaders have been detained, people in the valley are virtually living in a clamped down situation, do you believe all those, the misgivings will slowly disappear? Or do you believe the government has committed a fundamental blunder in the manner in which they've chosen to abrogate Article 370?
I clearly believe that what has been done in Kashmir this month is clearly a domestic issue. It's not even a bilateral issue. Pakistan has no moral standing here to talk about the internal changes that India is doing within Kashmir. Having said that, I would also say that the manner in which this has been carried out is completely draconian and should have been avoided. You don't force feed people democracy. You don't force feed people good governance. There are ways of going about doing that, number one. Number two, I think while by way of introducing Aksai Chin into the whole conversation, India may have unwittingly opened another front, which is China, which should have been avoidable from a strategic point of view. You don't want 2 fronts fighting against you at the same time. But coming back to the earlier point that I raised, I think this is not the way you carry out political or constitutional changes in a mature democracy such as India. This should have been avoided. And I think the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. Let's wait for the restrictions to be lifted and see where this is going. And I don't see things returning to normal anytime very soon.
But there will be those who will say there's been no normalcy.
I'm a regular visitor to Kashmir and this is not going to be very easy.
But Happy Moon, there'll be those who will say, as a regular visitor, that it's never been normal over the last 29 years. It's not the first time that we've had these kind of restrictions in place. This time, of course, it comes on the back of the abrogation of Article 370. The government could well say, look, it didn't succeed over the last 29 years. Why are you not even giving us 11 days?
No, I think we are talking about 2 different things here. On the one hand, there was the traditional Kashmir issue and one had to resolve that. For example, during the 2004-2008 period, there was a very substantive conversation that went on between India and Pakistan to resolve that. Look at that particular period. Was there any attacks? The attacks were very few and far between in the infiltration. Just look at the data. The infiltration was fewer. Militant attacks were, terrorist attacks were fewer. So I think you have had periods of normalcy when the negotiations between the Kashmiris and the and New Delhi went on, and between New Delhi and Pakistan went on. So it is not as if all of these 29 years were completely violent.
Right. You know, that's an interesting observation.
I think
the eventual solution, is the eventual solution here to restart the dialogue at some level?
I think I generally don't agree with my friend Happy Mohan. I agree with him here. 2004 to 2007, not 2008, there was a free of terrorism, because the talks, serious talks on Jammu and Kashmir took place after an assurance by President Musharraf that territory under Pakistan's control would not be used for terrorism against India. That continued till 2007, as long as Musharraf wielded power. The moment he handed over power to Kayani, everything followed, ending up in the Mumbai terrorist attack.
Let me take that from there to you, Sultan Hali, because the fear in India is that Imran is no longer in control of the situation. With every passing day, it's the army that's going to call the shots now in Pakistan once again. Even in 2008, once the army starts calling the shots, that's when concerns increase along the LOC. That your Pakistani army is determined in a way to give us the so-called 1,000-year war or the 1,000 cuts that you all keep speaking about.
Well, Rajdeep, I think you are stretching it too far. I'm not going to talk about 2008, but the current situation is that the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the GHQ, they are absolutely on the same page, and the GHQ is acting subservient to the Pakistani Prime Minister. So I don't for a moment say that GHQ is going to dictate any policy. Any policy that will come from Pakistan will emanate from the PM's office.
God.
Okay, let me bring in Irfan Nuruddin for a moment. What do you see Donald Trump doing in the next few days? There has been pressure from the Pakistanis. We are told Imran Khan has rung up Donald Trump and asked for Trump's support. Trump spoke dramatically about mediation or an offer of mediation. What do you expect the US president to do? Is it, first of all, even a priority issue for him?
Not at all. I mean, I think the president's comment, which was irresponsible about mediation, was probably without any approval or even notice to his colleagues and partners in the State Department. I mean, that's without evidence, but he speaks off the cuff, he speaks impulsively. It was not US policy. And as we speak in Delhi, there's a pretty significant delegation of senior US State Department officials for a very pre-planned, long before any of this was on the horizon. They're in Delhi. Undoubtedly, they're talking to Mr. Jaishankar. They're talking to other people in the leadership. India is going to be in a very good position to explain to the United States what it's trying to do over here. And I don't see the United States causing trouble for what, at the end of the day, is the real priority is the strategic relationship with India against China. The fact is, China seems to have taken Pakistan's stand. If anything, that pushes the United States even closer towards India.
Okay, let's leave it there, gentlemen. We've had a debate, sans the shouting, which is the way we wanted it, an educated debate on multiple issues revolving around Kashmir.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.